We've spoken about basic brewing equipment in the past, but today we're going to take a look at a few things that come in handy around the brewery and just make your brew day that little bit easier. Welcome back to the Backyard Brewer. Now you have to bear with me, I'm just getting over a chest infection. I haven't got my voice completely back yet, and that's why there's been a bit of a hiatus in content over the last couple of weeks. Just getting over this, and at one stage I couldn't talk at all, so just bear with me. I hope it clears up over the next few days. We will be releasing some more content soon, and I'm probably not going to have my voice completely back, but that's life. Let's take a look at a few things that I've got out in front of me here that are going to make your brew day just that little bit easier. I'll start in the middle and work my way up in no particular order. This isn't an order of importance of what you should buy or what you shouldn't buy. It's just handy things to have around. The first things I have here are a couple of sets of scales. So this set goes up to 10 kilos. It goes up in 10 gram increments. It goes up in 1 gram increments. You can change the units on it. You can swap between pounds, ounces, fluid ounces, grams and milliliters, and handy for measuring out small amounts of grain and some other things around the brewery. Not very good at measuring out your water conditioners, your salts or hops, because quite often you'll need, say, 36.5 grams of hops, or you might need 2.2 grams of gypsum or something like that. And that's where this set of scales comes in handy. If I can get them open. There we go. So this obviously doesn't weigh nearly as much, but it goes up in 0.1 of a gram increments. And so here's a tip for using these ones. Get yourself a little Tupperware container, put the Tupperware container on top, and put your ingredients into that after you've zeroed it out. So you put your Tupperware container on top, zero it out, and then put your ingredients in. And that way you're not having ingredients spill off the edge of the scale. The other thing is, because you're measuring out a lot of salts, the plate here isn't marine grade stainless or anything like that, so it probably, there's a good chance it'll rust. My last set did, so they're the scales. Okay. Next thing, okay, a couple of syringes. I use these for grabbing wort or grabbing some other adjuncts, liquid adjuncts. When I'm taking wort to use with my refractometer, I'll use this little syringe. I'll take just a couple of mils out of wort, and then I'll put that onto the slide, close the cover, and put the eyepiece up and take a look at the measurement. It's a lot easier than using a pipette. I have tried pipettes in the past, but I just find these to be incredibly easy to use. And because they're small, you only need a small amount to use with a refractometer. This one I tend to use when I'm mixing or blending or taking adjuncts or things like that. It obviously holds a lot more. I think that most of the markings have gone off this now, but from memory it holds 300 mils. So you can get a 300 ml sample and deliver it wherever you need to. If I was using juices to flavour a seltzer or something like that, then I would take it with this. I can measure it out. I'm going to have to go back now and put some graduation markings on there to replace the ones that are gone. But it only needs to be accurate to within, say, 50 mils, and you can guess. And you take your sample and Bob's your uncle. Next, a lot of things to look at. Measuring cups, measuring scoops. I've got about 4 of these, different sizes. One's a glass one. They're handy for measuring out ingredients. They're handy for measuring out liquids. If I'm doing a 2 litre starter, I can get 2 litres of liquid, pour it into my flask, drop the yeast in, and I know exactly how much is in there. Also handy for measuring out dry ingredients, same as these. Obviously there's one missing out of this set, but they've got the markings on there of what they are in cups and in mils. But great to have in the brewery, and they get used all the time. Next thing to look at are thermometers. So I've got 3 different types of thermometers here. My brew houses have digital thermometers on the side of them. They're great for measuring the temperature at the bottom of the mash tun, but maybe not so great at measuring the mash itself at the top of the mash tun, certainly not halfway through. This won't get down to halfway through, but it will at least measure a fair distance under the top of your mash. So you just turn it on, wrong button, turn it on, put it in there. There's a hold button there so that you can hold and read it when you take it out. But great for understanding what the temperature is both at the bottom and at the top of your mash tun. And the reason I've got 3 is that's the latest one I bought just for using in the mash. This one I've used in the past in liquids, so measuring or taking the temperature of the water, the strike water before I mash in. And it's got a couple of little probes just in there. You just submerge the probes in the water. It only tells you the very top layer, whereas this one will go a little further down and tell you what the temperature is a little further down in the column. But again, very handy to have, and it gives you a second data point to use. And the last one that I've got, this is just new, I haven't even used this in a brew yet, is a infrared thermometer. So I can tell straight away that this bench top is 20.8 degrees. If I point it at the sun, it's not going to tell me 20,000 degrees. If I point it at the light, it's 28.7 degrees. Very handy. Again, it's only going to measure the very surface of your mash or your wort. So it's not going to tell you what it is at the bottom of the mash tun or halfway through the mash tun, but it's good for double checking or taking a very quick reading. Again, a very handy piece of equipment to have. And like I say, I haven't used it yet, but I'm looking forward to using it on my next brew day. Next piece of equipment is a pH meter. Now I will do, the other thing is I am going to do an episode just on temperature and why temperature is important, and different ways of taking temperature, different thermometer types. So keep an eye out for that one. That'll be coming up soon. Again, pH meter, same sort of thing. You take this and you just submerge the sensor, and it'll give you, or you can put it into a cup. You can take a sample into one of these cups just in the bottom of it. Just stand it up in there, wait a few seconds till it levels out, and then it gives you a pH reading. Again, I'll be doing a special on these, an episode on pH, why pH is important, the ranges we're looking for, how pH affects the mash, how it affects the fermentation. So again, that's coming up, so keep an eye out for that. I'll also show you in that how to calibrate your pH meter as well. So your pH meter will come with a couple of little packets of different strength pH solutions. So you mix these up in water, and at 25 degrees Celsius it tells you what that pH is. Instructions will be on the leaflet. There'll be a specific amount of water that you have to add into that. It may be 100 mils or something like that. to make sure that you're actually diluting it correctly. But again, there will be an episode coming up showing you how to use a pH meter correctly. If you're kegging, these things are very handy. I've got about 4 of them now. There's one that sits in the car so that when I'm away and I take my my jockey box with me, or my keg ski as I like to call it, then I've got the kegs and I've got the CO2 cylinder. Very handy for being able to to set things up, and it's got the different size nut settings on there, and settings for your duo-tight connectors, and a little sort of C clamp in there. So again, very handy to have. I've got a few of them now, so they always come in handy. If you're fermenting under pressure, you need some sort of spunding valve or spunding system. This is a pretty good one. I like this. It's a brass one. I think I prefer this to the butterfly style. This one needs a good soak because it's stuck. But you can set the pressure using this knob here. There's a spring and a poppet valve in there that allows gases to come out. You've got your pressure gauge on here that tells you the pressure of the gas inside the fermenter. And that's quite handy because you obviously need to know that you're not exceeding the pressure rating of the vessel. Also, some recipes will call, if they're pressure fermented, they'll call for fermenting at 10 psi or 15 psi or 5 psi. So handy to be able to check that and see what the pressure is inside your fermenter. And as I say, these are my preferred spunding valves these days. Do not, this is useless for brewing. It's good for in the kitchen, but it's the only one that I could find today. I don't know what's happened to my funnel. I have a big metal one. I prefer to use metal funnels because there's no chance of bacteria or anything clinging to them. You'll have seen me use this particular one in the mead episode. It's not ideal, and I'm not sure what happened to my funnels. I've packed them away and haven't found them since we moved into this house. So this is the only one I've got. I will be going down to Super Cheap Auto tomorrow to get a couple of drip trays and things like that to put under the brew houses, and one to put under some new equipment that you'll see coming up in a new episode. But I will also get myself a proper metal funnel at the same time. Couldn't brew without one of them. The next thing is an auto-syphon. So there's an episode of kegging the, it's the Mexican cerveza. And it was it was fermented in a plastic wide mouth fermenter. And because it's a wide mouth plastic fermenter, you can't pressure transfer. So I had to do a siphon transfer. And using these auto-syphons just makes things incredibly easy. For that, I use my large stainless steel one that I've got. This one's good for bottling. The Cooper's Pale Ale bottling episode that hasn't come out yet but is about to come out. I just need to do the tasting for that, and that wraps that episode up. I use this, and you go stroke, 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 and you've got your siphon started. In the old days, you'd have probably seen people sucking on the end of the tube with their mouth. Obviously, the mouth's full of bacteria. There's a big chance of transferring an infection doing it that way. Don't do it that way. Use an auto-syphon. And that's probably half the reason why a lot of old home brews turn out so bad, is just because you're putting that bacteria into the brew while you're trying to ferment it in the bottle. Not a good idea. Another thing that's handy to have if you're kegging are spares. Spare poppet valve, spare posts, spare springs. Now, every now and again, you'll go to clean a keg and the spring will go flying off somewhere, or the poppet valve will go flying off somewhere, and you're stuck. You don't have any way of putting that back together so that you can use it. And if you need to keg straight away, you've got to make an emergency trip to the homebrew store if they're open. Most of the homebrew stores around me aren't open on Sundays, which is a shame. But if you've got spares, then you don't need to make that emergency trip. You can just pick up another one next time you're down at the homebrew store. Last group of items that I'm going to cover: brew spoon, mash spoon, whatever you want to call it. This is one that I got in either the Cooper's kit or the Mangrove Jack's kit. I can't remember which one it came in. It's good for doing those sorts of kits, but it's not going to stand up to the rigours of an all grain mash. It's plastic, it's flexible, it's likely to snap if you've got a really thick grain bill. So save that for the extracts. For the all grains, we have mash paddles. And I like the stainless steel mash paddles because they're easy to clean, nothing sticks to them, you don't get, there's no bacterial weight lurking in little corners to spoil your brew. That's a good mash paddle. This is a good mash paddle. This is for my well, I won't tell you what this is for. You'll see this one in action pretty soon. Just got to get the sparkies out to hook up a power connection, and I'll be doing a first mash with that brew house pretty soon. So I've got that, but I've also got this, a mash stirrer. So this end is hexagonal. It's designed to fit into a drill chuck, and you just move it around and it stirs the mash for you and gets rid of any dough balls that might be in there. It's a lot easier if you've got a big grain bill where you're maxing out your vessel. It's a lot easier than trying to get in there with a mash paddle and break up dough balls. And you're never 100% sure in those big grain bills whether you've got all of the dough balls out of it. With this, you can be, I think, 99% sure, because it turns around so quickly, it's mashing everything up so quickly. I'm pretty sure that this gets rid of all the dough balls. That's it for now. There is obviously a lot more equipment that you can buy. It is the start of the rabbit hole that I talk about all the time that you can disappear down. There's a lot of equipment that you can buy once you get into this hobby, get good at it, get enthusiastic about it, and start brewing some great beers. So I hope there's something here. Check out our website. There will be a blog post that goes along with this that lists out all of this equipment. A lot of it I got from Kegland, so I'll list the items there. I'll provide links. And in the meantime, enjoy your hobby, but drink responsibly. Catch you soon.